Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Open Money, where we feature real people talking about their real personal financial journeys. On this episode, we are speaking with Tanya. Tanya recently tackled a pretty significant amount of debt, so let's hear about her story.
Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm 49 years old and I'm from Nebraska.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Well, do you want to start with what your numbers look like?
Sure. So I think I figured my total assets were in the neighborhood of $255,000. That's including about $15,000 in checking and savings and about 240 in my retirement accounts. I have a mortgage and I owe about 133,000 on that. I don't really count my house or use assets as part of my net worth. So I guess my total net worth is about 120,000, which, putting these numbers together, it was really interesting because I was always looking at that 240,000 in my retirement accounts, which has been a big gulp this last year, like I'm sure everybody can appreciate.
Yeah.
Because about a year and a half ago, I was at 240,000 or very close to that. And this last year, I've put more money towards my retirement than I ever have. And I know intellectually that this isn't a bad thing to be like throwing money at my investments. But it's so harsh, especially after how many years of just seeing it just keep going up. And I was barely putting what I'm putting towards it now. So, but apparently my home is worth about $225,000. So that would change things a little bit if I counted that, the value, but I don't really.
I am right there with you. I love that you say that because I don't count the home value. I mean, I certainly count the debt that I owe on it and I subtract.
Right.
But I've never really considered my home's value as part of my net worth. And I understand, you own it, it's an asset, but I'm like, until you sell it,
right,
it's not usable.
Right. And it's funny because I thought about I think about every once in a while this story from back in the .com bubble. I was at work in this very enormous building that was basically an open floor plan, and this woman screamed, like bloody murder scream, from the diagonal opposite corner of the building. And apparently her investments, her stocks had hit $1 million, and she was like, I'm a millionaire. Well, we all know what happened. No, you weren't. Your stocks were worth $1 million. And that's exciting. And, congratulations, but you didn't sell. So you're not a millionaire, really. Or that's how I remember thinking that. Anyway, but yeah, so it's interesting because I plan on retiring in about 7-8 years, if everything continues the way that I'm planning on it continuing. And so you think a net worth of $120,000, how does that even work?
Yeah.
But there's a few things that are going to have to happen before I retire. And one is going to be my house has to be paid for. But I refinanced my house last year to a 10-year loan at 1.875.
Oh my gosh, score.
I know, right? I know. So it's totally crazy to think about that. And it's interesting because you make your own luck, right? I had been in a very aggressive debt pay down situation. I'd gotten myself into a little bit of a hole that I was making enough money that it was like I can pay for it. I'm not drowning under it. But it suddenly struck me that I make too much money to be paying this much a month in things that aren't doing anything for me right now.
Yeah.
So I went into a very aggressive pay down debt pay down. I came across YNAB and I'm like, I'm not paying for a budget. That's dumb. And I watched a video on it and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I did the 33-day free trial.
Mm-hmm.
And within a week, it had already changed my life.
Yeah.
And immediately, the control it allowed me to feel over my own finances. Nothing else changed, just the way that I looked at it.
With budgets is like, I don't think budgets are limiting. I think they're empowering because it
Absolutely
all over your money. Where I think a lot of people who don't do them yet, I feel like they think, oh, I don't want a budget. It means I can't spend anything. And I don't think
no
approach at all.
Not at all. And it also shows you what you actually prioritize, what's actually important to you. Is that latte important to you? Maybe it is. Yeah. Maybe that really is. And you see that and you make that possible. Exactly. It's probably my favorite money thing right now. About 20 months, I paid off $36,000 in debt.
Oh my goodness.
And
was that like credit card debt or consumer debt?
It was consumer debt. I have a whole life insurance policy that I would take loans from. And I had about $20,000 in that. Originally, I don't remember when I started this aggressive pay down how much I still had left, but that was the bulk of a lot of my debt, because I just didn't even pay attention to it. I'd put like $50 or $100 towards this, $20,000, and nothing ever happened. And that really started bothering me that existed. Yeah. So I thought I had a car loan. I would do 0% balance transfers. So, it didn't bother me because I wasn't paying interest on it, but it costs something to get those balance transfers. And again, I'm paying for something that I bought months or even years ago. So it was just something that was hanging over my head, kind of a sword of Damocles that was just bothering me. Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm done. I really do well enough that this should not be part of my existence. So although it was funny because I didn't really have, aside from that whole life insurance situation, I didn't really have a lot of debt until I bought my house, and then I got new floors put in, and I had a couple trips that I was doing that were kind of they were kind of extravagant that, now I wouldn't do it that way. I definitely pay for these sorts of things before I do it, but I'd never been in a situation where not putting a trip on a credit card, I might pay it off in the next month or two, but I mean, that was just how I did it, and I didn't really question it. Yeah. But now I think that I've gotten I think I had the foundation of really good financial decisions. I just hadn't gotten to the point where I was actually making them. Yeah. So now I think I'm there, and it's exciting. It was finally like, oh my gosh, now I've got all this freed up cash, really, because eventually I was going to try and get it. I would have started paying extra on my mortgage. That at that point, I think I was at about 20 years, 19 or 20 years. Yeah. And so in order to pay extra and pay it down in the same amount of time, I would have been paying an additional $500 a month to what I'm paying right now to have it paid off in that amount of time. So my mortgage did go up by like $700. But I could absorb that.
Yeah. Like, once you paid off the debt, you freed up a lot of cash.
I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy because, you set a goal like that. I'm going to pay off $36,000 of debt in less than 2 years. Yeah. And you think about it, you kind of dream, oh my goodness, I'm going to have so much extra money after all that. And suddenly I did, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And then I had been putting, I think I had been putting about $3,800 towards my Roth.
Okay.
And I maxed it out last year. And next month I'm going to be increasing that because I can do catch-up payments.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, are you going to max out the catch-up as well?
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, so this last year I maxed out I went from, I think, 8% that I was putting towards my 401k or TSP because I'm a federal employee.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to 12%,
Mm-hmm.
and then I maxed out my Roth.
That's awesome.
So that was this last year. And then next year I'm going to so weird. So I'm going, and I think it's just gone up. So I was thinking it was going to be $588 or $83 that I was going to be putting away instead of $500. But I think it's $625 I can put away a month to max.
Okay.
So I am going to have to do a little bit of rearranging, but yeah, so that's going to happen. But the other thing I had intended to do, and I mean, like I said, this is just crazy. Mm-hmm. I'd intended to keep increasing by a percentage or two a year until I get to the point where I'm maxing out my TSP. And again, I recognize how weird this sounds when I have a net worth of 120,000, but I think I'm going to be okay. And I don't know that I have to max them both out, but that had been my intention. I was going to max out my Roth. I was going to do that in time to then max out the catch-up contributions as well. And then I was going to work towards maxing out my I keep saying that, my TSP. I haven't had a 401k since 2003. So I don't know why I keep saying that.
I think it's hilarious. That's the popular one,
right?
Even I would say 401k back when I had a simple, and I'm like, well, I know it's not the same, but it's the retirement.
You know what a simple is? That's so funny. So, but anyway, I don't know that I need to do that. And I'm starting to feel a little bit of a pinch, and I don't want to feel that. In the same vein of, I just got sick of having debt hanging over my head. I feel like I'm living a little bit too frugally almost. Yeah. And I like enjoying travel and enjoying just being able to spend money or take somebody out to eat and pick it up. I mean, I have had a lot of people say that they want me to adopt them as my niece or nephew because I take my nieces on trips when they have a big event. They all got to do a trip anywhere in the continental US. So yeah, I do this kind of where I just enjoy being able to share experiences with people, whether it's taking them out to eat or taking them on a trip. Yeah. And I want to be able to do that and not feel guilty that, I'm taking money away from my appliance fund, my future appliance fund, or my car repair. I've got a pretty reined in budget now, but I don't have that much wiggle room, which is so funny because I do well. So I'm starting to wonder if I really want to retire at 57, 58, maybe do one more year so that I can relax a little bit now. Yeah.
I mean, do you like what you do? I think that's the most important question.
I used to say I loved it, and currently I'm not loving my job simply because I've just gotten recently trained on something that's really complicated and I don't love it, to the point where I'm starting to think, do I need to stay? Maybe I could leave and find something else, but it's kind of the golden ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Who has pensions anymore? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm less than 3 years away from having a 20-year government pension.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's funny because I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I was in the military, and I used to say I got out at 8.5 years, and I used to say I will not be held hostage to a military pension.
Yeah.
But that was really easy to say when I had 11.5 years before that
Yeah.
happened. But now I'm under 3 years, and I'm like, oh,
I
Connie,
would
do you really want
not.
to do that?
Yeah, I wouldn't walk away from a pension if I had 3 years left. I mean,
No, no. I mean, I'd still get money, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be
yeah.
the same. But I also, because of my military service, I have a VA disability. So I get money from that. So these are some of the things that make me not need that magic number that,
Yeah.
so many people say, oh, you need to have $1 million, for instance. That's the one everybody thinks of, even though I've seen your content and I
I
mean,
think
I think
that's just like the number that people say. I don't think there's anything special about it, because it depends
no,
on what you need to live your life. And everyone is so wildly different. Like there are people who can
exactly.
retire with almost nothing in the bank because they've got pensions that cover everything they could ever need. They're debt free, their house is paid off.
Right.
Why would they need $1 million sitting there, But I mean, then you've got people who blow through money like crazy still in retirement and they need a bigger cash cushion, So everyone is so different. If you look at your disability, if you look at your pension, do you have a rough idea of what percentage of your income needs that would take care of in retirement? Like what kind of gap do you have to fill with your own investment?
Well, right now, my monthly budget is $5,100.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm anticipating, my pension and my VA check right now, and what I'm anticipating my pension to be would be approximately $3,000. So right there, I'm already at 60%.
Yeah.
And that my monthly budget right now includes almost $2,000 in mortgage.
Yeah. So you
So
would
right,
almost cover everything.
right. And I intend to keep my house and rent it out
Mm-hmm.
and then go live someplace where it's not very expensive. Right now, the places I'm thinking are Ecuador
Mm-hmm.
and Portugal,
Mm-hmm.
possibly Spain, Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
So places where you can live very comfortably on $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that between my pension, my VA, and any rental income I'll have, that will take care of everything.
Okay.
I can't use any just generic calculator
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I'm not going to retire at 65. So I'm going to stop contributing to my retirement accounts in like 8 years, let's say. But I don't intend to use that money
Mm-hmm.
for another 13, 14 years. That's what my hope
Yeah.
is that I live abroad until it's no longer fun. Then I can come home and start collecting on my Social Security and my withdrawals. So yeah, I might have, by the time that I'm done, I might have gotten that $240,000 up to $700,000, which is what the calculators are saying
Yeah.
right now. But if $700,000 is sitting around for 10, 15 years, it's going to be a lot more than that. So, I mean, I might hit by the time I actually need those funds,
Mm-hmm.
I might hit that magic number, that nebulous magic number that people say. So, because I've got, the VA, I don't have to worry about health insurance or anything like that.
Which is huge.
So, yeah. So, I mean, my situation is a little bit different. I'm single. I don't have kids. I don't have debt aside from my mortgage. So all these things make it a little bit easier. What I like to do, I mean, I love to travel, but the way that I travel isn't always like what I plan to do in retirement is not be extravagant and live well within my means. And so I don't really need to have that much.
Are you going to feel like you feel right now? Because you said you feel like you're being a little bit too frugal. Do you think if you try to live a little more frugal life in retirement, would that kind of feel like you're not living it up as much?
Well, so I think what will end up happening is if I have to, then I will dip into things like that whole life insurance that I don't, the whole reason why I got it in the first place. And I know that that's another very controversial topic for people to, you know, do you get whole or term or whatever? And whether I should have done that at 25 or whatever it was when I did it, you know, that can be debated, but it doesn't matter because I did it, right? But the whole reason why I did it was because my student loans were my parents' names. So if something had happened to me, they would have still been stuck with it. And I didn't want anybody to have to take care of my obligation.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. And it's funny because I think of this too. You know, people say don't do that because you can invest that money better elsewhere. Well, that's wonderful. But I was making $21,000 or $22,000 a year when I got out of college, and I never would have taken that $75 and put that someplace else. Never. Yeah. And that was money that I was forced to do because it was so important to me to make sure that that was going to be taken care of. Again, the whole debate, should I have gone term? Okay, maybe I should have because I really didn't have a lot of wiggle room. But it doesn't matter. And having that has, you know, given me the craziest safety net because I don't have a 6-month emergency fund. But if something happened right now, I would have 6 months in my of access in my whole life. And so, you know, I have these, it's turned out fine.
It's kind of the way most things work out, you know, like you might be able to look back in life and be like, oh, I could have made a better decision here and there, but inevitably we make the best decision we can at the time and go forward.
If I had a mantra, that would be it. You know, you make the best decision that you have with the information available, and you can't look back in hindsight and say, oh, I should have done that. Well, I mean, you can, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to change anything. You already did it.
It doesn't help you.
Right.
If you would like to be part of the Open Money series, talk about your experience, I would love to feature you. All you have to do is send me an email at erintalksmoney@gmail.com and we'll get it set up. I post new videos every single week. If you had anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.